And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome in to RBLR Sports. My name is Musab, and what a great, fantastic, jam-packed weekend we had, and I'm mad excited to talk about it. And with me is my partner in crime, the one and only Stefan. Stefan, how we doing tonight?
We're doing great, man. We're doing great. What a good win for the Bucs. We got a big one coming up to seal the division, so exciting times down here. I mean, it's been, believe, since '07 since we won the division, Musab, so can't be more excited for this Sunday to come.
I'm right there with you. I'm mad excited as well. Super fired up, especially with that ending. I mean, it was a nail biter indeed, Stefan. But listeners, if you are as excited as we are for the Saints game, if you could do us a favor, and however you're listening to this, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, there's probably a follow button, a like button, or a subscribe button. But also, we are on social media platforms at RBLR Sports. All right, well, let's just get right into it. I mean, this was a roller coaster kind of game. At least for me, Stefan, I had all kinds of emotions from the end of the first half to the end of the second half, and then throughout overtime, I was actually like on the verge of biting my nails, which I usually don't, but whew, I was nervous. But how do we feel, Stefan?
I'm right there with you, right? It was a nail biter. We kind of predicted it would be a close one, so we were right there. But I think what happened was, we got up to that, massive, great start, Musab, and we thought it was going to be fun to watch the rest of the way, and it was fun, but for all the wrong reasons in the second half there. But hey, all that matters is we came out with a W, and it was awesome, to see how it ended, and the defense showed up when it needed to, and so did the offense. So hey, we pulled off a good win. They're a really good team. A lot of people them to go to the Super Bowl, so I'll take a win like this any day, Musab.
A win's a win indeed, Stefan. And I mean, listen, I gotta say this: the Bills. This wasn't something I was expecting, because obviously we were on fire from the beginning. Now, beforehand, obviously I would have different feelings, but after the first quarter, after the second quarter, I mean, I was talking to y'all and I was saying, it's time to kill the bruise, time to have some fun. This game is ours for sure. But obviously not. Things changed for the worse and it got mad scary. But, we'll dig deep into that for sure. But, let's talk about the good. It was a win. I'm happy. You're happy. I think we're all happy. And I think the first person I think I want to give a shout out to is Mr. Regular Season Playoff Lenny.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Musa. What a performance by this guy. 100 yards on the ground again. And he scored a TD, against the number two scoring defense in the league. Very, very, very impressive. I believe he averaged around 5 yards a clip, which is, extremely impressive. I think we've sort of we're starting to take him for granted a little bit, Musab. He's having an unbelievable year. So that being said, that means he'll be asking for a massive paycheck in the summer. So I'm hoping that, after another Super Bowl win, we can find a way to keep him around. And unfortunately, this might be it for Rojo. But, I'm just very impressed. We both like this guy, and he's been playing unbelievable.
Exactly. I mean, his stock gets higher and higher. More than ever, we definitely needed a solidified RB to show out. And I mean, he's been doing that for sure. But I don't know. For me, Stefan, it's just like game by game. I mean, how do you say this guy is like not the running back anymore? I mean, I feel like there's always a talk about, hey, why don't we just throw Ronald Jones in a little more here and there? But things seem to be fine for me on the running back end. I mean, is it perfect? No such thing as perfect, but I'm happy just like you are. I really am. And knowing the consistency by Leonard Fournette makes me feel better, especially as we're headed into the off season, of course, or the playoffs is what I meant. But I want to know along with that. I mean, listen, unreal performance by the wide receivers from start to finish. That includes our stars like Mike Evans and Godwin, and then people that a lot of people forgot about, like Rashad Perriman. Stefan, overall thoughts? I mean, yeah, unreal indeed. And I mean, yeah, I mean, let's just dig right into it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, another one where I completely agree here, Musab. I mean, the numbers, if we just go down the line, you got Godwin with 10 catches for 105, Evans 6 catches, 91 yards, Gronk 5 catches, 62 yards, and we all saw the home run by Brashard Perriman to end it. So, I mean, we were definitely spreading the ball around. Most of these yards, except Perriman, were, in the first half and a few catches of Gronk in the second. But, hey, another unbelievable performance by this unit. I mean, Brady, clearly he has some of his favorites, but he's feeding everyone, so which is nice to see. Godwin win for over 1,000 yards now in the season, and I believe Musab that our boy Mike Evans is only 115 yards away from another 1,000-yard receiving, which would be the eighth consecutive year. So his 8 years in the league, every single year he's had 1,000, which would continue his record in the entire NFL, which would be awesome to see. So I'm hoping he gets it here soon. We still got a few games, so I think he will. But just to wrap up this one, Musab, I mean, unbelievable how he's just spreading the ball. But a guy that I wanted to bring up here that he didn't get a target. I don't even know if he played Musab. What's happened with OJ Howard? I mean, we should have just traded him. This guy's not even getting on the field.
That's something I was wondering as well. And especially towards the second half, I'm thinking, why are we not kind of switching it out, get the fresh legs? Obviously, it was kind of Gronk, break. Then I'm scratching my head thinking, yeah, where is OJ Howard? And yeah, that's a big question mark for me as well. And at least the good part, minus OJ Howard, which was seeing that we are able to use our variety of weapons, and it was going well against the Bills. Now, obviously, the second half, obviously, we're gonna dig deep into it, but it was a whole different vibe, and unreal performance, I have to say overall, but I feel like it's a little more towards the first half that we had. I really liked the fiery start, just wondering why it did not continue.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it was. And I'm sure we'll get to that one in our bad segment, but I'm with you. It started off really hot and then it kind of disappeared, which is, not what we want to see. Like, kind of how we were talking a little bit offline, where I don't think we've played those 4 quarters, but we'll find a way. And I think we're starting to peak at the right moment. And that leads us to another guy that's peaking, Musab. How about Shaq Barrett again?
He's back and he's looking better than ever. I feel like this is what we wanted. This is the Shaq that we know, and he's been balling out. He's been doing real well. The pressure was there throughout the whole game, and especially the first half, indeed. And I keep saying the first half, second half, because I kind of just want to emphasize personally. I just thought that this was more of a first half kind of ball out performance, and the second half it was a different equation. Not that it was just completely horrible, but the emphasis I just want to put more on Shaq is, just throughout the game though, minus the, unlike the unreal performance by the wide receivers and playoff Lenny, they had their dinks and, here and there, they got slowed down. But for me, Shaq Barrett, I feel like, even if he didn't rack up a bunch of sacks, the pressure was always there. And, that was, if he was about to get him, that meant that, okay, at least, we'll be able to slow them down, get in their way or something. And I'm just also curious to see the execution by Allen as to what he needs to do. Now, he got a lot of running yards, and I think the reason why he was able to do that was the pressure was there, and I wasn't expecting him to be rather mobile. So, and that's because people like Shaq Barrett were pressuring him all the time that he had to change his plans last minute. He had to make the, oh my gosh, well, this was not what I was expecting, or oh my gosh, like they're about to pummel me. I need to do something. So at that point, I felt like, Allen was just trying to save himself. So sometimes he got away with it, sometimes he didn't. And that's thanks to people like Shaq Barrett.
I agree. Again, I mean, even though it wasn't a lot of sacks, Musab, he did get 1.5 sacks, tackle for loss, and to your point, 5 QB hits. There's the pressure. There is exactly where, to your point, Josh Allen was running all around the field, um, and he definitely ran it, on us more than we wanted to, but we still found a way, and that's probably why. On our next good segment, we have your boy Devin White. He had total 10 tackles, 1.5 sacks, a tackle for loss, and 2 QB hits. I mean, Musab, I know it took a little bit, but this guy's starting to peak at the right time, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to say a little bit. Listen, he's my defensive player of the year candidate, but I got to hold the guy accountable. I'm glad that he's balling out now, but yeah, he's warmed up is what I want to say. He's warmed up, and exactly as I was saying with Shaq Barrett, sure he got like a sack and a half, but the overall pressure, along with the rest of the guys, it was there. And I'll tell you this, what I always liked about Devin White, and I keep bringing this up, is kind of the things afterwards. The pressure, getting up in the face, the aggressiveness. All right. And he didn't quit at all. He was a contributing factor to make sure that the Bills didn't just completely run over us in the second half. And that's why I'm really happy. You know, on the defensive side, people like Shaq Barrett and Devin White, things are kind of clicking, or I mean, they have been clicking these last few weeks. But now that it's actually time to really get ready for the playoffs, now it's really time to make sure that, hey, our stars, our good players, our starters, the vets, everyone, we're all looking hot and ready, and we know what we need to do. And based on Devin White's performance, I think I can safely say that I think he knew what he needed to do. Sure, no one's gonna play a perfect game, but for me, as a young guy like him, consistently dominating, showing his aggressiveness, I like it. It gives me good vibes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with about 90% what you're saying. I just wish he would have warmed up a little bit earlier, Musa. But hey, can't complain because he's doing it now and he's playing really well. And alongside my favorite defensive player in the Bucs, which is Levante. When those two dudes are flying like they were on Sunday, it's just unbelievably fun to watch. Um, but that being said, let's move on to our bad segment, Musab. And we're gonna start with a Mr. Bradley opinion. I'm gonna throw a few numbers at you, and I just want to get your overall reaction about this because I'm starting to get really frustrated with this guy. I know he won that award earlier in the year, but Musab, let's listen to this. His net punt average over the last 5 games. So he's punted 38 yards, 45, 35, 42, 37. His current net punting average is the third worst in the NFL, and the overall punting average is the worst in the NFL. I think it might be time to bring someone up to compete with this dude, Musab. It's getting pretty pathetic, and it almost cost us on Sunday.
Yeah, it almost did cost us on Sunday, but now just imagine this, you're in the playoffs, you're about to hit the Super Bowl. It's times like these where I'm thinking, well, listen, our team is overall doing pretty well, but what if someone like Bradley Pinion, who's not been looking good, what if he costs us the game?
Oh my, I
So,
lose.
yeah, exactly. So, Stefan, for certain roles, it's like all eyes are on you, okay? The kicker, the punter, the quarterback, of course. But it's listen. I don't want to say his job is easy, but it's rather straightforward. And when I know that you know how to do the right job, I know you know how to give some good punts. I know you know how to execute. Then why do these things happen, especially against the Bills? A rather interesting, pretty up and down team. But hey, listen, they've been good. They've been on fire, and it was a little scary. It was concerning indeed, Stefan. I will say that for sure. And personally, maybe it wasn't something that I was nitpicking too much on, just because I felt like the first half I was like, it was all sunshine and rainbows, low key in my mind. But now that I'm thinking in the second half, okay, if we're only up a few points, we really need a good punt. And if it's not there, then we're in deep trouble, Stefan.
Oh yeah, and to your point, I mean, the game got close, and then he punted, and it was like 30 yards, and I was like, my God, I mean, they're about to go down and tie this game up because we couldn't, and again, this doesn't help the offense or the defense. You put in the defense in a bad spot, that's already a good offense that we were going against, and you're just giving them the ball in good field position. It's just not good. But hopefully he gets better, or we find a way to get someone to compete. Maybe he just needs someone, to compete there to understand that, hey, anyone here, it's replaceable, and we're in this thing to win it this year. So we got to figure it out there. Um, Another dude who I want to talk about. Listen, I love him. I love Ryan Jensen. I love his attitude, and sometimes it'll cost us a penalty here and there, but he's always defending Brady, and he brings that energy. But is it me, Musab, or he has a lot of high snaps when we're in shotgun? And again, if Brady doesn't recover that ball to start the game, I mean, we're talking we could have lost. We could have lost because they get the ball there. That's 3 points for a touchdown easily. And it's starting to bother me that I see this often. Brady just jump in a catch, and it's like, hey, and Tom Brady's as tall as it is. So I'm just not very appreciative of all these high snaps I'm seeing lately.
Amen to that. And I'm wondering, Stefan, because, for someone like him, this is not something I feel like has been happening over and over and over again or throughout the whole season so far. But what I'm wondering is this something that happens because of pressure? Is that what it is? Is it because, listen, we already have a few losses. We want to make sure we finish the season strong. And is the pressure affecting people like Pinion and as Jensen as well? Is that what it is? And again, as you said, just imagine, it costs us 3 points or 7 points just because of, one small mistake, which was like, a high snap. And the fact that it was continuous was very concerning. Um, Now, this is not something I feel like I see too often, so I'm hoping he fixes this upcoming weekend. But we'll see what happens. But I'm right there with you, Stefan. These small things, especially during a game like that, especially in the fourth quarter, Stefan, when you're already been up, you've already, you've done real well, and then you have some slips, they catch up. You still have a chance, right? We still had a chance to make sure, we could at least get the win before overtime. But things like these get in the way, Stefan.
I agree. And you get the ball to start the game, and then this is what happens. And you're practically gonna punt on that drive already because it becomes like 2nd and 30. So I mean, it's just not good football. So that was really disappointing to see in the first half of the game. But hey, they found a way, and that's really all that matters. But when we talked about the receivers earlier, they made a good segment. But there's a guy, I know he doesn't play a lot of receiver, but technically he is. Jalen Darden. I don't know how I feel about this, Musab. I think I'm starting to miss Jaden Mickens a little bit. I mean, 3 returns and kickoffs for a total of 38 yards. That's an average of 12 yards. I mean, his longest was 16, so he's not even putting us at the 25, Musab. Like, don't even bring it out. And again, this is just special teams. And I don't know if it's a special teams issue or what it is, but I'm just not very appreciative, bringing out of the end zone and getting 12 yards.
Another person on the kind of all eyes on you list that I forgot to mention before. Now, obviously, not too much kind of all eyes on him compared to like the kicker role or the punter role. But yeah, you want to see something better than what he did this past weekend, Steph. And I listen, you bring it up. Oh, is special teams the issue? And if it is, then I'm feeling a little pessimistic now, Stefan. If that's the issue, because it's gonna cost us. I know it will because if we let a team like that catch up, just imagine what's going to happen in the playoffs if we don't even have something. Imagine if we didn't even have a lead. Now just imagine we didn't even rack up one touchdown and they end up winning the game simply because of poor execution in the third and fourth quarter, and that involves our special teams unit from Pinion to Darden.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something that's been special teams hasn't been our strongest suit since Bruce has been here. So it's just kind of, you know, I just see a lot of stuff in special teams that, to your point, maybe it didn't bite us this past weekend, but in a big game, a bad punt like that, receiving the ball after halftime and only bringing it out to the 12, like those things will end up costing you at some point. I mean, it's just part of the football game, especially in close football games. So that being said, let's move on to the offense a little bit here. We, kind of that slow second half for our offense, Musab. Any thoughts on this? I'm giving the defense a little bit of a break in the second half because I thought the defense overall played well enough to win this game, just considering all the weapons that Buffalo has on offense. I thought they did their part, but I wasn't expecting Brady to miss Gronk and Godwin, normal throws that he normally gets. So, just kind of wanted to hear you. What do you attribute this slow second half to, offensively?
I think it contributes to two factors, or maybe I would even say three. But the first one being that I think we sagged off. We were on fire, Stefan. We really were.
But we're
I
twitching.
texted you. I said, "Hey, exactly." I said, "Listen, it's time for the bruise." I put a little emoji, and during halftime, I was eating good. I was feeling good. So I was sagging off as well. I was relaxed, and you know what? Maybe our Buccaneers were relaxed, or you know what I'm thinking is, obviously maybe they're not like, okay, we have this. This is a shoe in the park or whatever. But maybe they said, you know what? Let's try some different approaches. We're already up. We've been dominating, so it's not like they're just gonna come out hot and ready. Uh, but they kind of actually did. But that being said, I think it's more the approach that we had. I think that's what it was. The approach that, hey, let's try some things. I think we can still, win for sure. I think there's some things that we can try and we can execute properly. But it wasn't there. There were a lot of factors. I'm sure there's a lot of internal kind of on the field things that we don't ever know about, nor will we ever find out. But maybe that's what it was. But the second thing is, now imagine this: you're the Buffalo Bills, and when I was thinking about the Buffalo Bills in the beginning of the season, I was like, oh snap, this is a team to look out for. This is an AFC threat. Okay, now I'm feeling a little different, but I'm sure they got a little fired up after that Pats loss, after being down so much to our Buccaneers. I'm sure something happened in the locker room that allowed them to change up their game, get more fired up. But the third point, and you kind of brought it up as well, was those kind of slips that we had between the Brady Gronk connections, the Brady Godwin connections. Unfortunately, I guess those just happen. But what I'm wondering is how much can that happen, Stefan? Sure, I guess obviously things are gonna happen, but what allows a team to catch up to us so much? Why did we allow that? Okay. And for me, it's like Ray Lewis said, defense wins championships. And I was thinking, thank God for our defense because the offense wasn't there at all.
And even if you think about it, when we go back in the overtime, I mean, I was nervous. They got the ball first. I was like, oh my, here we go. The defense, before obviously Perriman touchdown to end it. I mean, the only reason we even got the ball back is because the defense, stood up and made the play when they had to. So, they found a way, Musa. But I just want to end, kind of this bad segment saying, I still think they haven't played their best football yet. We haven't put all 4 quarters together. And I'm really hoping it starts to happen soon. I mean, but we are peaking at the right time. I believe this is like 4 or 3 or 5. I don't know, but it's a good winning streak we got going on right now, something along those lines. So that's always good. A win is a win, and great teams find a way to win, and we did. And now we can kind of end that that subject around, well, who have they beaten? Well, now we've beaten the Pats, we've beaten the Cowboys, are still considered a playoff team. We got the Colts, we've beaten Buffalo, so we've beaten good teams. So it's not like we're just piling on wins against just bad teams. So that's good to see as well. But that being said, let's move out of our bad segment here and talk about, we've been in these next few weeks. This will be something to keep an eye on, Musab. Kind of that idea of getting that number 1 seed. So Arizona lost, which helps the Bucs. So I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts. How you're feeling a little more optimistic. How, in your head, is there any possible way still that we would get that number 1 seed? Um, and that all this being said, if the Bucs do win this Sunday, we sort of control our own destiny from a division wise. If we do win this Sunday, we clinch the NFC South, which would be huge as well.
If there's any game that's important now for the rest of the season, it's definitely this upcoming weekend's game against the Saints. And listen, I'm gonna need. You said it yourself, Stefan. I mean, they're looking hot now than before. This is the right time to really get warmed up and ready. Now, we're knocking out some pretty good teams, and now this is the last one that's really important. So now you're asking me, is it possible? I think it's absolutely possible, especially with that Cardinals loss. But we're just going to have to see because the performance we had this past weekend is raising some eyebrows, especially with that second half. I'm just wondering, Stefan, how many of these different mistakes or these silly mistakes, there's always a pot of these random mistakes I feel like we have minus maybe 1 or 2 games this season. Like when we played the Bears, we just completely just dominated overall, and I really couldn't think of any issues. But a game like this we had in the past, and this upcoming game is super important because they already got a W against us earlier on this season. So this one's really important, and that's all I really want to say. I mean, yes, it's possible, Stefan, but it's only going to be possible if we get this win. This win
I
is now really important. All eyes are on this win. You want to call this win Bradley Pinion or Jalen Darden or Ryan Suckup? because yeah, it's a one man show, aka the Buccaneers. It's a one kind of game show. This is the game. We control our own destiny after this, and I mean, listen, I mean, I don't mean to put anyone down, but after this game, I think I can say it should be, and ideally, I think it will be all sunshine and rainbows. Obviously, some teams will put up a little fight with us, but this is it. This is, for me, this is kind of like the final show. We'll have those little taper off, cool down games. We still want to make sure we rack up the win, but this one's like, it's all eyes are on this one, especially
Yeah,
with that little chip on our shoulder, with the loss we had against the Saints earlier on this season. So this is gonna be the test. This is gonna be the okay. Listen, we only got a few games left, and I don't even want to compare the performance our Buccaneers have after the Saints game because I don't think it's gonna be relevant to comparing how we shall or will perform in the playoffs. So this one, or these past few games we've had, it gives me a better idea of how we really are against playoff contenders, against other just pretty good teams. Okay, so this is it for me. This one I'm gonna have more than just my popcorn. I'm gonna have a whole feast, and because I'm gonna be scarf. Listen, I say that because I get a little nervous when my Buccaneers are trailing or they're only leading by a few points. All right. Thankfully, I was home for the second half, Stefan. Otherwise, I probably would have just ate out that whole bar that I was at. All right, seriously. So yeah, I'm gonna have my popcorn, my pizza, my soda, my all my snacks, everything, because this is it. So is it possible? Yes, and we will find out this upcoming Sunday. What you think?
yeah, no, I'm right there with you. That I predicted 14-3 in the number one seed, so I'm still holding on tight to that prediction. And again, I don't see Brady getting swept by the Saints 2 years in a row. That would be pretty embarrassing. So I think we'll find a way, and hopefully Green Bay will help us on down the road so we can lock that one up. Um, well, let's talk about the RBLR moment. One of our favorite segments here. So Musab, I'll let you start with our RBLR moment from this past weekend.
My RBLR moment was probably the RBLR moment of the year. At least I can say for myself, because of just the emotions I had right before the catch, and then the emotions I had when he caught the ball, and then the emotions I had when it was a touchdown. And who was that? That's Mr. Brashad Perriman. This one's a little extra special to me because, yes, obviously it was a game winning touchdown. Obviously, I enjoyed seeing it a lot. But something kind of made me smile was I'm glad someone like him got some action, and he's the one who kind of got the game-winning touchdown. Listen, he was on our team before. Then he came back after a few teams, and then it was like as soon as he came back, it was like, all right, he's on the practice squad. Okay, he got bumped up. Okay, now it's overtime. All right, and I'm not really thinking about him at all. Okay, I'm really thinking Mike Evans, playoff Lenny, Tom Brady, Godwin, please, oh Gronk, please do something. Take us down the field. Help us rack some points. But that was not the case. I was I was on the edge of my seat, Stefan, when Tom Brady hiked it, all right, holding the ball in his hands. And then 2 seconds later, the ball's in the air, and I'm thinking, OMG, OMG, who's gonna catch it? And then boom, 1 second later, I see Brashad Perriman's jersey. I'm like, oh my God, Brashad Perriman. He catches it. He keeps going down, and oh my Lord, I've never been so happy.
Yeah, it was it. When you said that, Musaba, we're going back to I have the same RBLR moment for a little bit different reason, but you know, seeing that the way it ended, kind of to me it was almost like a home run, kind of like a walk off pretty much, and being at the stadium, it felt like Ray J was gonna collapse. It was awesome to be there just as a fan and just smile and be happy and high fiving everyone, especially after a year like last year. I know COVID's still well alive, but just being able to still go to the games, it was just very exciting to be there. All I remember Musab, to be quite frankly, at this point, I'm sorry to say, is I was a few beers deep, and I started just carrying my fiance in the air when he scored, and I almost cried. I was like, damn, man, this is a huge win. It gives us an opportunity to kind of set the stage up for the next weekend and be able to clinch this division, which has been a long time coming. So that I agree with you there. Great RBLR moment just to enjoy as a fan. And that being said,
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, I love my Bucks. I love my Bucks, Stefan. And it was a Sunday evening game. And for like anyone else in this world, Stefan, you always get those Sunday blues. All right,
oh
whether you got to go to school the next day, whether you got to go to work the next day. And a game-winning touchdown like that has you walking in the office Monday morning like a new man or a new woman. And honestly,
Musab,
that's what it did for me.
I wasn't even mad it was Monday. I wasn't even mad. It was awesome. It was a great game to watch as a fan. I enjoyed it, and a walk-off homer like that. I mean, it was incredible. So fans, that being said, like, we said it last week in the podcast, the RBLR shop is up and running. We enjoy when you like and subscribe, but we would love if you start wearing our swag around. Be shining all Tampa sports, the football, the hockey, the soccer, the baseball, everything. Please feel free to use the Cannons as a promo code. You'll get 10% off your order, and there is a link in the description where we post the podcast in all major platforms. So feel free to go in there, get your favorite swag so you can wear on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesday, whatever it is that any of the major sports teams are playing. Feel free to go in there and get your swag. We really appreciate it, and you would help us out a lot. So we appreciate that. That being said, Musab, let's move into one of our least favorite segments, the injuries. At least this list, Musab, is starting to go down a little bit, which is nice. Antonio Brown and Mike Edwards, again, there's not a lot to say here besides they're suspended one more game. I think, Musab, I heard Bruce Arians say they haven't made a determination on what they're going to do with them. Are they going to just cut them? And that's up to the coaches. I mean, they made a bad decision of lying, and we'll see what happens there. But they still got one more game before they could even get back on the field. We lost Giovanni Bernard. He's on IR, so he's at least not playing the next 3 games. His injury looked pretty seriously, Musab, but when I was at the game, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously, this is a guy that can catch the ball, but the way Leonard Fournette's playing, he hasn't seen a lot of time. But wish him the best, and hopefully we get him back before the playoffs. A guy that we do really miss is Jordan Whitehead because again Mike Edwards is out, and there's not a lot of news out there on this, Musab. He's not an IR, but he hasn't practiced a lot. I did see today the Bucs held a walkthrough, so it's not a normal practice really. And all that was out there was that he was a limited participant, but I don't really know what that means for a walkthrough. I mean, does that just mean he was on his feet? Like, who knows, right? I mean, it's hard to tell, but we'd love to see him back on the field. Any thoughts on this, Musab? I know besides being able to tell that the list is getting smaller and smaller, which we really appreciate. Any of news or comments on these 4 guys that we got here on the list?
Comments is listen. I'm happy as just like you as well, Stefan. That the list has gone smaller. All right, and I'm just hoping that everyone remains healthy. And now it's time to be a little more careful, be strategic, and I'm glad we're not rushing anything. And I think it's important not to rush anything either. Listen, we still have a few games, okay, until the playoffs. So if things do pop up, Stefan, always just praying for the best, wishing, for the best outcome. But I don't mean to sound like a pessimist, but being football, it's so much contact. I'm not going to be surprised if things pop up. And that's just part of the game, Stefan. There's just some things, Stefan, we're just not going to know until we get extremely close to playoff time. Okay. And this is for every single team. All right. Anything can happen. So, as of right now, looking at this injury list and then looking at this upcoming game against the Saints, I'm feeling good. Okay. Yes, we're going to miss Bernard and Whitehead, and we'll miss our friends Edwards and AB, the dynamic suspension duo. But listen, we got a good roster. They're looking good. Um, Obviously, some people still not recovering fully, so on the road to recovery. But overall, though, I'm feeling optimistic with our players who are gonna be suiting up. And with Whitehead, that's the only one I'm kind of trying to follow up on as much as I can, just because he is a very important key player on our defense. He's been coming in clutch in the past, especially last year's playoffs. So uh, that one I have a little bit more my eye on, and that's really about it.
Yeah, with you right there. Let's try to keep this list as small as possible, and it's getting smaller, so that's always great to see. Let's jump into the Saints preview, Musab. The Bucs are an 11-point favorite. That starts with the Saints defense. They're ranked six versus the run, allowing 95 yards per game. Their defense, though, versus the pass is the middle of the pack, Musab. They're allowing almost 250 yards per game. I don't have much besides this, Musab. And the other, I would probably, before I pass it to you, I'm just going to say, I mean, who doesn't love Lattimore versus Evans again, right? This is kind of what we live for. So I'll pass it back to you here. Any thoughts on their defense? And, let's see how this goes.
For me, I feel like it's going to be just like a round two. Sure, things are a little bit different on both ends, but I really wanted to see a nice battle, or I mean, I guess we did see a Lattimore and Evans, but I really want to see Evans as one. All right. And I don't, obviously Tom Brady doesn't want to have another loss against the Saints. There's a lot of pressure. So one side of me is thinking, Stefan, how do we deal with pressure in the past? Because from the top of my head, I'm thinking the Pats game we had, obviously I don't think there was ever so much pressure on someone like Tom Brady. And then, during games like the Bills, where they're catching up to us, and it's towards the end of the fourth quarter, and we're still not looking hot. We just need a few key plays to stay hot. So my only worry is, Stefan, is I hope we don't get kind of dominated towards the end. All right. The start is just going to be something we're going to have to feel out with them because there's a little bit of a different equation now. But I'm thinking, though, more eyes for me are going to be on Evans and Lattimore in the beginning. And then towards the end, it's just going to be between our offense versus their defense, but also making sure our defense doesn't slip at all. Now it's time to play a little bit of hardball, okay? Now it's time to hold these guys accountable. Some things are always going to happen here and there. Obviously, they're going to get down, the field a little bit just because that's just part of the game. And obviously, we can't just have 1,000,000% perfect coverage, but we can pressure them, okay? So seeing performers like Devin White and Shaq Barrett dominate, put pressure on the quarterbacks, I'm hoping they'll do the same, along with all the other guys. So my overall thoughts are, just the Lattimore Evans battle, seeing what Taysom Hill has, in store for us, because he's also someone I feel like I don't know too much about, and that's just because of his history and what he's capable of doing. He's a rather interesting dual threat. So those two guys, at least on the offensive and defensive side, are the ones I have my eyes on. But anything can happen. With the Saints, we've had an interesting history when it comes to Brady versus the Saints, or these last 2 years against the Saints. And this one's going to be a dogfight. I really do think so. But what's the most important thing for me is just the playing four quarters. This is something we've been talking about over and over and over again. But now it's time to be like, listen, we have to see a full four quarters. It doesn't matter if we're up 72-3. All right. I want these guys to put their blood, sweat, and tears till the final whistle. All right. This should be the kind of game, Stefan, because of the rest of the games after this one. This is kind of our last statement game. Okay. We scraped by the Bills. Now, what's the league thinking? Ooh, they barely got away. Interesting. Like, wow, they let the Bills catch up. This is the last one saying, okay, we messed around a lot against the Saints last time we played them, but now we're a whole new Bucs. We're all warmed up. We got a lot more people looking healthy now than ever, and this should be our game.
Right there with you. Well, I wanted to stop you there and talk a little about Taysom Hill. I mean, you mentioned I'm with you. I don't really know what to expect about this guy. I mean, his passing game to me is, poor at best. But he can definitely run the ball, Musab. And we struggled a little bit with Josh Allen running it around. So that would be interesting to watch there. I'm sure Lavonte or Devin will be spying this because they saw the tape too. The Saints did. So they saw Josh Allen just running all around the field. We'll see how that one goes. But another guy I wanted to mention is, Alvin Kamara. I mean, this guy's legit. We've been decently successful versus him in the past, but we know what this dude represents. He's a dual threat running back. So to me, Musab, this is someone to fear, and probably their best offensive weapon. Would you agree there, disagree, or any thoughts you got on Kamara?
See, what should happen in regards to those two, Stefan, the way I see it is, and I mean, you said it yourself as well, that, yeah, I don't think Taysom Hill is too hot on the passing game either. Okay. He's someone more like, hey, let's see what kind of magic he has up his sleeve. But um, because of that, this is what we should do, which is just pressure Taysom Hill, take advantage of his interesting experience he has gained playing a variety of positions, or I guess the role he has now more than ever. Okay, it's a completely different 180, experience for him now that obviously Breeze is gone. Winston's dealing with some issues right now. So all eyes are on him, and I wonder how that makes him feel. And then that makes me wonder then if he feels that he is, in danger, then obviously, okay, well then it's Alvin Kamara's time to shine, right? Well, okay, well, if there's only one important crucial weapon, and I'm thinking, okay, well, is this going to be a game like the Colts where it's like, okay, well, hey, look, Carson Wentz, respectable, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously, all eyes are on Jonathan Taylor. So what I'm thinking is then all eyes should be on Alvin Kamara. And yes, listen, he's amazing, and I think he'll get some yards for sure. That's just how it is, all right? But we need to make sure that we pick on this earlier on the game. And more importantly, you know what I think is important? Making sure that we put this throughout all four quarters. The same kind of, vibe we had in the first quarter, we should have towards the end, especially closing out. This one's going to be really interesting. And if they play with us, if we start fooling around, we start making the same mistakes that we have been in the past, then they're going to take advantage of it. They have some tricks up their sleeves. They really do, Stefan. And if we start slacking, this could be a little ugly.
Yeah, I would agree, and I hope we don't, Musab. I hope we do have that four quarter mentality, and we do get that statement kind of win. Um, we could talk a little bit about the wide receiving core, Musab. There's not a lot there. I mean, I don't think it's anything special. I would probably say the only guy that would pop out on my screen is Marquez Callaway. I mean, he can really run, but then again, I don't think Taysom Hill can really, beat us over the top. So, any thoughts on that wide receiving core? I mean, they're really struggling. Michael Thomas out, and obviously Jameis would be the guy who can push the ball down the field.
Well, then, yeah, I mean, it's time to take advantage of that. And then what I'm wondering is then I'm just wondering how much are we going to spread this out? Okay, how much are we going to be putting pressure on Alvin Kamara and Hill, but also making sure that we don't just let these wide receivers get away with it. They've had their ups and downs, of course, and they are struggling indeed. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But, if you were saying that the backup Saints is now playing against us, remember last time they played us?
Yeah.
And if you're telling me now, Stefan, oh, by the way, hey, listen, Winston's out. Okay, now their backup's in. This ought to be fun, right, Musab? And I'll be like, OMG, absolutely, Stefan. Yeah, this is, I mean, ideally, this should be a walk in the park. But it didn't turn out like that, obviously. So I'm wondering, is someone going to steal the show from Kamara and Hill, or, some other guy that we had in mind? Is this going to be someone who we just weren't expecting, and then they start getting hot, and now we're thinking, oh my God, how are we going to stop them? I hope not. There is potential, Stefan, but if we play our cards right, if we have been playing like we have been these last few games, then I don't see it as an issue.
I'm with you right there. I don't see the wide receiving core as an issue either. And we got our boy Carlton and SMB back, and hopefully Whitehead and Winfield. We should be all right there. So that being said, Musal, let's move into our last, final two segments here, and let's start with one of our favorite ones, Mr. Fantasy for this weekend versus that Saints defense. Who do you got?
I'm Mr. Fantasy. It's got to be Godwin. As much as I want to say Evans, realistically, I do think that it's going to be a little bit of a Godwin show just because it was in the past, and that's just how it usually turns out to be. So realistically, I'm going to go with Godwin, and I really do think he's going to show out. I mean, he's been warmed up now. He's looking hot. He's looking good. This is the Godwin that we all know, and I think he'll be able to execute.
Musab, I'm gonna do it. I'm going with Mike Evans. I think he's gonna destroy.
Uh-oh. Oh, I knew you were going to do that.
I knew I'm gonna do it. I think he's gonna destroy Lattimore. I think this is the game where we finally turn around that corner. It's a big game for us. We can clinch the division in front of home fan, the home fan. So I'm gonna go with he has over 115 yards. He gets that 1,000 yards this weekend. And the Bucs prevail and clinch that division, on Sunday Night Football. And I think this is the game where he'll break through against Lattimore and company. I mean, he had a good one last time, but I think this is the signature game, signature Mike Evans versus Saints game. I think it's going to happen this weekend. So let's hope for that. I mean, I would love for both of them to feast. Really, I want to torch him. So I would love for Godwin and Mike to feast. So let's move to game prediction. What do you got for us this week, Musab?
Ooh, my game prediction. It's going to be a close one. I really do think so. Now, I do think that it's going to be close throughout the whole game, but I think the Evans Lattimore that you have in mind is just going to be more of a closeout, a nice, good looking closeout with Brady, and it doesn't matter for me anyone, whether that be Evans, Godwin. I'm going to be extremely happy. So my final score is going to be 31-24. I think it's going to be a dogfight back and forth. Maybe they might be able to catch up. Maybe we'll catch up. I don't know. But what I will say is, I think we have in mind that we really need to make sure we play the fourth quarter harder than ever. And the execution needs to be there. And more importantly, our captain, our savior, Mr. Tom Brady, he's not going to have another loss on his record with the Saints. All right, enough is enough. I'm sure as soon as we won that game, as soon as Brashad Perriman stepped in that touchdown zone, he said, ding, ding, all right, now it's time to think about the Saints. Gentlemen, y'all can party. I'm going to think about the Saints. And I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but there's a lot of pressure in his head. I feel like he's kind of low-key stressed out. I mean, if you are Tom Brady, just imagine all the chitter chatter that's going to be going on right now. And then after the game, if you do lose, there's a lot of pressure, and I'm just wondering how much can he take. Now, listen, he's the veteran, he's the GOAT, so I'm sure obviously a lot of people have been doubting him, trash talking him, et cetera, et cetera. But towards, as he's leaning towards the end of his career, this is not something ideal for him. The GOAT, Tom Brady. So that's why I'm going to say 31-24. I think we're going to close out.
I like it, Musab. I'm going to go out of a limb here. I really do think this is the game where it's enough is enough of losing against them in the regular season. I do know that Brady's last weekend was the biggest game of the year, but to me that this is it for us. We haven't won the division in a long, long time. So I think, we're going to pile on. I think our defense has gotten better and better and better, and this is the game to show off. So I'm going to go 31-10 Tampa Bay at home. I believe we can throw the ball versus this defense. Just because, we do fear them because of Lattimore and company, but the stats say you can throw the ball against them. They're in the middle of the pack, so Tom Brady's going to show up and show that why he's the GOAT and why we're going to score on them. And I think we'll be able to contain Taysom Hill running the ball, especially after having a practice pretty much versus Josh Allen last week. We should have enough to kind of figure that one out. So I'm going to go with 31-10. The Bucs will clinch the division at home. And we'll be ready to what do they call it, t-shirt and hat game, and be able to celebrate a little bit, and then keep playing for the number one seed. So as always, fans, thanks for sticking with us for an hour. We really, really appreciate it. If you could follow us at RBLR Sports on all social media platforms, we're there. Like I said, the description for the shop is in the link. Feel free to hop on that as well. And like and subscribe to the podcast as always in Spotify, Apple, Google Pod, iHeartRadio, you name it, we got it. And that would be all for this week from me, Musab. I'll leave you with the last words, and go Bucs, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, last week's theme was attack, the prey at Ray J. I'm calling this one an intense day in Tampa Bay. All right. And listen, it really is. All right. This is round 2. All right. For all my Rocky fans, you remember the first time Drago knocked out Creed. Now Rocky's paying back. All right. Tom Brady's Rocky, and he's taking out Drago, a.k.a. the Saints. Enough is enough. All right. Our Bucs are going to win. So this Sunday afternoon, I hope you are fired up. All right. This is the game, the spotlight, everything. All right. And I said before, I'm going to have my popcorn, my pizza. I'm going to have a lot of stuff. All right. I need to go shopping, Stefan. So if you got any recommendations, feel free to text me those afterwards. But I'm gonna be snacking hard. I'm gonna be having a lot of fun. All right, it's time. I got a few jerseys. Some of them are nicer than others. But I'm gonna tell you this: I'm pulling out the Devin White 45 Super Bowl edition. We're going hard. All right, and I hope that energy you had from week 1 to week 14, especially that energy you had after Perriman got that game-winning touchdown, I hope it's still there, because you're going to need it, I'm going to need it, we're all going to need it, and more importantly, our Bucs are going to need it. So, that being said, thanks again, listeners, and as always, go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.